One of the things that really impressed me about Agro-Culture Liquid Fertilizer is the amount of research that they do. When you visit their facilities in Michigan, they want to take you right out to the research farm and show you over 500 acres of small replicated trials that they're running across the farm with different rates of fertilizer, different combinations, and then just on a wealth of crops. It's not just corn and soybeans and wheat. It's alfalfa, it's vegetable crops. There's all kinds of things they're looking at on the research farm. They want to know exactly how their fertilizer is going to work with each crop that's out there across the country. They aren't just selling it into the upper Midwest. It's going out to the coasts. It's going to a lot of different producers. One of my favorite things about the research work done at Agro-Culture Liquid is it's done right here in America. Their product's made here in America. They've got American people distributing the product around the country and supporting the sales around the country. I personally like that. You think about all the fertilizer imports that you're getting from all over the world. You're getting urea from the Middle East. You're getting liquid nitrogen from the Middle East. You're getting potash from this country. You're getting phosphorus sources from that country. There's a lot of different places you can get fertilizer from. For me, if I can support a United States business and the United States fertilizer industry, that means a lot because I'm going to put nutrients out for my crop. I'd just as well be supporting companies that are based out of the United States when I'm doing so. The other thing that I thought is this is a fertilizer company and they're doing all this research work. I don't know any other fertilizer company that's doing what Agro-Culture Liquid is. And with the pipeline of new products that they've got, it's fantastic. They've got plenty of years of research to support any claims that they're making or that their salespeople are going to be promoting in the countryside. So for me, when I first wanted to start using Agro-Culture Liquid, there were some other people around our area that used it before I did. And I knew that these guys were having good luck and they would always tell me, oh wow, this program is so convenient. It's very efficient with our time in the spring. We really like the program. And I thought, well, you know, I don't know, we've been doing things a different way for a long time, so I was a little unsure when I first got in, so I kind of dipped my toe in the water a little bit, so to speak, to begin things. And with Agro-Culture Liquid, what I found is what happened in my field is exactly what the research showed would happen. I was playing around with rates. I was trying 5 gallons of Pro Germinator, and I thought, I've got parts per million of phosphorus in the field that I'm in right now, as low as 1 part per million. When I first picked up this ground just a few years ago, I thought 1 part per million, 5 gallons of Pro Germinator, it just can't be enough. So I had to try a little bit more. I tried 7.5 gallons. I tried 10 gallons. And I thought, wow, I'll do the same with SureK. So I tried 5 gallons, 7.5 gallons, and 10 gallons in addition to the Pro Germinator I was doing. So I had as much as 20 gallons of liquid in the furrow at one time in my 30-inch row corn on this field with very low fertility and really pretty low organic matter too. For the most part, it's down in the 1.5% to 2% organic matter levels. And I was just concerned. First of all, I thought I'm going to have some injury when I get to those high rates. And second of all, I thought I'm going to need those high rates if I want to get good yields. Well, my first year results were 150 bushel corn with 5 gallons of Pro Germinator, 5 gallons of SureK, and when I upped the rates, I got a little bit more yield, but not enough to justify the added cost. I should have just listened to my rep right from the start. He said 5 and 5, that's going to max out your yield. Once you get to that point, you're going to find something else as your yield limiting factor besides NP and K. He was absolutely right. I had some micronutrient issues, so I'm using some Micro 500 in there. I've actually upped the rate on this field versus what the recommendations are. Again, I'm playing around with those rates just because, wow, can it really work that good at low rates? I've got to try higher rates and spend a little extra money before I figure out, yeah, I should have just listened to him in the first place. Well, it all comes back to the research. You can't be confident in any recommendation, whether it's with dry fertilizer, liquid fertilizer, crop protection, whatever it is that you're doing with your crop. You just can't be confident that it's going to work if you don't have solid research behind it. And that's where it all comes from at Agro-Culture Liquid. They've got a great research staff with long-term people that have been doing this for their whole careers. They're just focused on getting good quality data. And you know what? If the data doesn't prove out, If they find, wow, we can't do foliar feed in this particular crop and get successful results, they'll tell you. They aren't going to sell you something that doesn't work because the research won't back it up. One of the big concerns I had when I was going to use a different fertility program than what I had done in the past is, what is the environmental impact of that fertilizer that I'm going to use? And you think about it, with Agro-Culture Liquid, you're using low-rate liquid fertilizer that's put right on with the planter, right in furrow. How much better could that be? And you think about some different farms that you may farm. I mean, for me, I farm this ground where I've got all this slope. Like this particular field is 60 acres, and I've got 70 foot of drop in 60 acres. It's tremendous. And you think, wow, if I spread a whole bunch of dry fertilizer on top of the ground and broadcast spread it, maybe I'd do it in the fall. There's a lot of guys that do it in the fall. Where is that fertilizer going to end up if we get some big rains? If we have some snow melt that moves it right on down the valley? And I see it in the fertility levels in this field. When I first picked up the ground, it had been cash rented for a long time, broadcast spread with dry fertilizer, and on the hilltops, I've got no fertility. In the valleys, I've got more topsoil and more fertility because there's been erosion and movement. When we think about things like phosphorus, for example, if you're putting it down in the ground, right where the roots are going to be, that's the ideal. When we have trouble with phosphorus running off the soil and into a river or a stream or a lake, it's top-dressed phosphorus that moves. It's the stuff that's laying on top of the ground and in that top half inch or so. And when that stuff moves with soil or with erosion, with rain, that's where we end up with phosphorus problems. By putting the phosphorus out when we need it, where we need it, the environmental impact is so good. So what's new in fertilizer? You think about MAP and DAP and urea. These are products that have been around for longer than me. And when you look at them, what's the new technology there? It's the same product that my grandpa used. Well, I'm looking for something new. I'm looking for something a little more high-tech. You know, over all the years, all the research that's been done on our crops, how they take up nutrients, exactly when and where they need those nutrients to be more efficient, why would I still be using the products that my grandpa used when I'm trying to get the most performance out of these brand new genetics that we're planting? So I want to look for something new. And where the technology is at right now is in liquids that are highly available and very efficient. So that's another reason that Agro-Culture Liquid is a great product for you to try, because it is something new. Yes, the company's been around for 30 years, but they're continually developing new products. And the only way they can do it is with a strong research program. With many companies, they're just trying to resell some fertilizer that somebody else made. Someone manufactured this liquid, it gets sold under 3 or 4 different brand names, or somebody manufactured some MAP or DAP or urea, and yes, they've got a local fertilizer storage building for you, but what value do they really bring? With Agro-Culture Liquid, they're seeking higher yields with lower amounts of nutrients than what you may have been using before. It's just we're able to do it more efficiently through the research program that happens at Agro-Culture Liquid. So when you're looking for new fertility programs for your farm, look at where a company's investing their money back into research. Agro-Culture Liquid, as they've been growing over the last 30 years, has continually invested more money into research. That's small replicated trials right in Michigan around their base, but it's also trial work that they're doing around the country on different crops, in different tillage systems, and in other different farming practices. So I get a lot of questions about, all right, so you're using this liquid program and you're just using a few gallons in furrow and you're still getting good yields, you must be robbing those nutrients out of the soil. And this is something I was a little concerned about. I thought, wow, if I'm putting more pounds out there with a MAP or DAP type application than I am with Pro Germinator, for example, shouldn't that be a better deal for my soil long term? What I found is completely the opposite. When I'm putting MAP and DAP out on my soils, it's getting tied up. Only a small percentage of that actually gets into my plant. And what's happening is I've got high levels of calcium in most of my soils. And that calcium is actually tying that phosphorus up so tight that I cannot break that again. My dad always said, if you're putting a high rate of MAP or DAP out there, it's just like putting money in the bank. Yeah, you can't get all that fertilizer this year, but somewhere down the road, you'll free that up and get it back. And what we're finding on our farm is that is not the case. The fertilizer that Dad put out there 20 and 30 years ago, we aren't getting that to free up. We're having to apply more fertilizer all the time to try and get some phosphorus available and into our plants. So when we first started using Agro-Culture Liquid on our farm, we wanted to do our own research at home and take soil samples before we planted a crop and before we used their product, and then we took soil samples after harvest to see what kind of impact we had on soil test levels just using these low rates of liquid. Now, we had talked to some other farmers that we work with that had used the products for 10 years or even more. And they said, you know what, our soil test levels were about the same, if not a little bit better, after we used Agro-Culture Liquid. And we found that to be true on our farm as well. This field we were in had soil test phosphorus levels as low as 1 part per million. And after we harvested that first crop where we raised 150 bushel corn on 5 gallons of liquid, we had even more phosphorus in those soil tests. So we knew we were feeding the crop and we were being very efficient with the product that we're using. We also did some plant tissue analysis throughout the season to see if we were actually feeding that crop enough. And where we varied the rate on Agro-Culture Liquid from 5 gallons to 7.5 gallons to 10 gallons of Pro Germinator, we saw a little bit more phosphorus getting in on the 7.5 and 10 gallon rates, but in the end it didn't amount to a big yield difference. It didn't justify the added cost of putting a whole bunch of extra liquid on. So we stick with the normal rates that were being recommended by Agro-Culture Liquid, and that really has maximized our production. And again, it all goes back to the research. When they've got a company with a deep history of research on all the products that they represent, they've got a great base of knowledge. They're making good recommendations from what our experience has shown us. On our farm, we do a lot of research work on whole field scales. So we'll split a planter or we'll do some strips of a different crop protection product throughout the farm. We find that work to be invaluable to us in making good decisions for the next year, for the year after that on our farm, to do the right things for our ground. With Agro-Culture Liquid, their research program is really unmatched in the industry. It's fantastic, with 500 acres dedicated to research on their farm in Michigan, with other research they're doing around the country, with great people and great backing from the company. It's fantastic. Actually, it's motivated us on our farm and with our business to hire a full-time research person just to focus on some replicated trials and to help us manage our full field trials that we're doing on our farm and with other farmers around the area. So we're trying to step it up. I don't know if we'll ever catch up to Agro-Culture Liquid and all the research work they're doing, but we're certainly trying to do that as well. We just feel research is so important in agriculture with the speed of change and all the new products, new traits, different row spacings, plant populations, fertility products, all these things that are coming at you every year. You have to be confident in what you're doing, because at the value of today's land and today's crops, you just can't afford to make a mistake. So I applaud Agro-Culture Liquid. They've got a great research program. If you want to see it yourself, they have field days throughout the summer. You can get up there in Michigan, see the work, meet the people. You will be impressed.